Our guest this morning, someone who wants to be the next governor, Steve Fulop, mayor for the last 12 years for Jersey City. Mr. Mayor, welcome to Up Close. Glad you're here.
Thanks for having me.
I guess we should start right away, although I got a lot of other little things to talk about that aren't so little. Why do you want to be governor?
Well, look, I think New Jersey is a great place that's underachieving. I think it's become difficult to afford to live there. Transportation is broken. And I think being mayor for the last 12 years of my track record, I can fix it. I have 3 small kids. I'm thinking a lot about what New Jersey is going to look like in the future.
Underperforming. What do you mean by that?
I mean, look, it's got so much potential. I think that you have mountain areas and beaches, you have proximity to New York, you have great economy or potential, and then at the same time you have broken transit, you have very expensive property taxes, and insurance going through the roof, energy bills that are crazy, and I think largely it's because of dysfunction in Trenton.
So we have, in a normal circumstance, I would say, yes, this is why you want to do it because the taxes are too high, blah, 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 blah. And I don't mean that derogatorily. That's what usually you talk about.
Yes.
But there are 2 things that are happening right now in your backyard that I think a lot of people are a little bit scared about too. Let's look at the airport first.
Yeah.
What a mess and chaotic experience.
Broken.
It's going through right now.
Yeah.
What do you do about it?
Well, look, I think
and can you do anything about it as governor?
Well, let me say this, okay? I think Phil Murphy has been too kind to Donald Trump on this with regards to his rhetoric around the FAA and DEI and all of that stuff. This didn't happen under Joe Biden, first. Secondly, the governor of New Jersey and the governor of New York control the Port Authority, which has responsibility over JFK, Newark, and LaGuardia. And if you take a step back, the problems that are happening at Newark aren't happening at LaGuardia and JFK, and it begs the question, why? And why isn't the conversation happening around sharing resources? And then I'll say a third thing, and I'm always skeptical of airlines and airline CEOs because I think airlines are bad actors like insurance companies are bad actors. And I think that sometimes they use the opportunity to cancel routes that aren't making money. I think all of those things are converging at the same time.
All right, so is there anything you can do as mayor of Jersey City regarding this?
Well, no. I could try to be vocal, which I have been. I think that the best opportunity is really pushing the governor, and the governor should use the leverage at the Port Authority to make sure that they're sharing resources amongst the 3 different airports. And
why hasn't Governor Murphy talked about that?
I think sometimes Governor Murphy is conflict averse and risk averse, if you want to be honest about it. And I think that he's taken a tone with President Trump since he's been there of somewhat conciliatory. And I think that that's a mistake because I don't think President Trump respects people when they're too kind. I think he respects strength. And I think if you have a point, you should be assertive on it.
But he has been critical of President Trump.
Well, it's debatable. He's been complimentary of Commissioner Duffy on transportation, saying that, hey, we could use it some help. And then his tone with President Trump has been help around congestion pricing.
And you think that's why he has been nice about it, because Mr. Trump is against congestion pricing as well?
Well, Mr. Trump has been against congestion pricing,
yes.
And I think that Phil Murphy has been looking for some help around that. And I think that generally Phil Murphy is in a place that, he's not always looking for fights. And that's okay in certain situations, but I think he should be pushing harder here.
Okay. Do you feel scared about going
to Newark Airport?
To Newark Airport and getting on a plane?
Look, I think, let me say it this way. My wife took a flight a couple days ago and she was scared.
Was it late?
It was delayed on the runway for some period of time. And she was concerned. So I think that is running through the public, but hopefully, I'm sure once they resolve it, they'll resolve it. But they're not going to let anybody take off in a situation, I assume, where they think it's a potential risk.
So it's quite possible,
Yeah.
if you're going to believe all the people that are talking about
Yes.
that this is going to last a long time.
If this lasts a long time, it's a major problem because New York and New Jersey are hosting the World Cup next year. We have a broken train system and transportation system in New Jersey. And I think that the amount of tourism that's coming this summer on the FIFA Club Championship and then next year in the World Cup, major concerns from a regional standpoint.
Okay, so that is a very big deal. And we could talk about it for a
Yes.
long time. If you're going to be a governor, if you want to be a governor, you're going to have to do something about that. Tell me exactly what you're going to do.
On transportation?
Yes.
Well, New Jersey Transit is broken. I think that there's
going to be a strike next week, maybe.
Yeah, well, that needs to be resolved for sure. They implemented a 5-year funding source. It was actually our idea. They need to change that in perpetuity. It was a corporate business tax on companies that did $10 million or more in revenue. I think you have a privatized bus contractors that operate the bus systems. You need to bring that in-house. They have a turnpike widening plan right now for $12 billion. I think that needs to be canceled and reallocated towards mass transit. And I think congestion pricing, New Jersey needs to leverage some influence in order to share the pie from a regional transportation system. That's a starting point.
So how do you do that, share that pie? Because they could get the money for that, right?
Yeah, well, I think that there was the opportunity initially, and Phil Murphy took the approach of litigation. I think the better way to do it now, you got to use leverage. You got to say that we're going to do reverse congestion pricing, that New Jersey will tax New Yorkers and force a conversation about a regional system. I mean, we shouldn't be going back and forth for economic development or transportation, and I think that you need to approach it from a regional standpoint.
Okay, before we get into the economics of some of this stuff, I want to talk about the helicopter that crashed in the Hudson. Right, very close to your bank there, your water bank.
Yes.
What is your position about helicopters that, take tourists around?
Yeah, well, tourists bad. I think. I
like that. Tourists bad. That's your slogan.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think news is fine. I think obviously we have kind of the commercial airlines, but I think the tourism component. And those helicopters are going back and forth to make it easier for people to go to either Newark Airport or the Hamptons in the summer have created a very crowded airspace. And it's dangerous. 150 feet, you're in the middle of a major road in Jersey City. That was where it would have fallen, that helicopter. So I think a reasonable person would say you got to cut these. And I guess Eric Adams and I are not on the same page on this because he likes them. But I think that you could take pictures of the skyline from the promenade in Brooklyn or the Jersey City waterfront and you're fine.
But there are people who take it for transportation as well. You're not going to stop that, I don't think.
I think that you need to have some responsible regulations. I mean, the space there, because there's a ceiling on how high you can go because of LaGuardia, Newark, and JFK, creates this very congested airspace. And every couple of years, you seem to have some sort of issue there. And so I think you just need responsible parameters around that. So tourism is a problem. And I think that you need some control over those commercial ones that are going back and forth. I guess from in the summertime, they seem very frequent out to the Hamptons back and forth for wealthier people. Just created a very crowded airspace. We just have some controls over that.
I want to get to other topics, but before we get off this topic, you were on our air when that helicopter crashed.
Yes.
We talked to you several times.
Yes.
You were tough and you were strong, but I sensed when we were interviewing you as well that there was a great pain and fear involved because you just saw something horrible.
Yeah, well, so the children, some of them were pulled and they still had a heartbeat. So that was kind of a hopeful situation. But at the same time, you realized what type of damage was done to the passengers in that. I mean, in the days after, they didn't even have the bodies ID'd because there was so much damage to those bodies. The whole thing was so terrible. And you go back to the fact that there's going to be questions around maintenance and mechanics and all of the things and the track record of that operator there. It begs the question on whether these things make sense to be doing.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to move on to other things and some of the issues that voters are going to be thinking about.
Yeah, go ahead.
President Trump, no matter who wins the Democratic primary race, is likely to be involved in the governor's race because
100%.
he wants to deal with New Jersey.
Yes.
And what are you afraid of? What's your perspective on what he's doing to the country right now?
Well, look, I think that if candidates think that the November election is going to be solely about President Trump, I think they're mistaken. I think that he looms large in the Democratic base, but I think that you see a lot of people that have voted for him. And if you're going to win in November, you got to make an argument to independents and Republicans around transportation, taxes, affordability. The Republicans are going to try and make it about 4 more years of Phil Murphy. So they're going to say, if you like your taxes, if you like your energy bill, it's 4 more years of Phil Murphy. And it's the same thing. It's going to be talking to independents about practical solutions as opposed to just making it about Trump.
He's going to make it hard for whoever the new governor is going to be, maybe even Republican as well. He wants to get rid of sanctuary cities and states, which you are one, and you are going to be another one if you win the governorship. And he has eliminated salt, the salt taxes and deductions.
Correct.
What are you going to do about all that?
Well, I think you got to be vocal, but I think your federal representatives are the first stop on the SALT. They haven't really made much progress.
They haven't made hardly any.
They haven't, and two of them are running for governor, ironically. They've been staking their claim on this SALT deduction for 4, 5, 6 years, and there's been no progress. Look, I think the governor could be vocal on immigration issues. There's a lot of bills in Trenton that can be passed to protect immigration, education, things that he's attacking, vulnerable communities. I think Trenton should be more assertive. It's the first line of defense from a state standpoint to protect people that are there. We can do better on that, I think.
You graduated from SUNY Binghamton, a Master of Business at NYU, Masters of Public Administration at Columbia.
Yes.
You're well educated.
I think.
Congratulations. And if you win the governor's race, you're going to be the first Jewish governor in the history of New Jersey.
Yes.
Anti-Semitism, very huge. Really quickly, that'll be the last word.
Yeah, it's a big deal. There's no question that there's been uptick in anti-Semitism. I think I have a track record of standing up to that. We had a mass shooting that targeted the Jewish community in 2019. I was the first to point that out. We've highlighted and elevated my background close to the Jewish community. I've come from a family of Holocaust survivors. We have a sukkah at City Hall. I mean, we do a lot of things to highlight the partnership, and I think having a governor with a track record is going to be a differentiator.
Mayor Fulop, good luck to you, sir.
I appreciate that.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, take care of yourself.